Hello, and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where normally I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic Gathering's history. But I thought it's been a while since I've done a Friday trash talk video, so double video today. Yeah, and I know I just had a thought to do one of these. I do, these are kind of semi-regular, these kind of videos where, I'm not looking at decks, so I'm just kind of talking about, I know, something that's on my mind about Magic the Gathering just as a whole, as a hobby. And I'll tell you what I was thinking about this week. I was thinking, so the other week I was at my local game shop where I've started recently going. That's the whole reason I kind of started doing these trash talk videos. And I know I came to this realization that, so at the game shop, there's kind of a lot of newer players, which is fine, obviously. It's good that, there's new blood in the hobby. But I'll be honest, I don't want to sound mean when I'm saying this, but the challenge of playing them is not very high, which is, that's fair because, I've been playing Magic for probably about 25 years, I want to say. And they might have only been playing for, a year at most, maybe. But the thing is, their deck building sort of reflects that, because this is the thing about, because we don't have precons anymore. We don't have planeswalkers decks. The only precons that are done are the commander decks, and commander is a whole different kettle of fish. There's not a deck like this really, apart from there's the starter kit, I guess. But I've bought those before, really just because they're cheap and they have lots of playsets of kind of staple cards. But those decks are not super well put together, in my opinion. But we don't have planeswalkers decks like this anymore that a new player can pick up and sort of play a couple of times, get a feel for how the deck is put together, and then sort of modify. A lot of them are, just playing decks they've kind of put together from, their limited collections, which is fine. That's, I'm saying there's not a problem with that. But, the thing is, by not having these products anymore, these pre-constructed decks, new players aren't really introduced to what I don't want to say. I don't want to say like a proper deck, but to what a constructed deck looks like. So I was playing against one player, and they had a deck that was 73 cards and had 17 lands, and it was all 5 colors. And obviously they weren't doing very well. They didn't really play anything. And I'm not really sure what the deck strategy was or anything. And it's hard, I suppose, because you don't want to give unsolicited advice. You don't want to just be like, your deck's bad, you should do this. You definitely want to take a more. You want to sit down with them and kind of walk them through it. Not obviously talk to them like an idiot or anything, but you want to give advice, basically. So people feel more confident playing the game. Because that's the thing as well, the level of rules knowledge is very, very basic in the group, I'm finding. Hardly, everyone basically plays everything. Main phase 1 does combat, ends their turn. There's very little main phase 2 playing. There's very little kind of, responding to things, playing stuff at instant speed or whatever. That person I was playing, they played a ley line of anticipation, which gives all their stuff flash, and then they just played stuff during their main phase, and I had to tell them look, all your stuff's got flash, play it at the end of my turn. And that kind of they were like, well, what do I do on my turn? It's you do nothing. You hold a full hand of cards and have all your mana untapped and make me worry about what you've got, that kind of thing. So that's why I think these playing these pre-constructed decks are so important, because they give they give a foundation for new players, out of the box. So say you pick up, one of these, like the Teferi deck, and be like, oh, I really like how this plays, but I don't like maybe these 3 cards in it, and then you swap cards in, but you still stick to 60 cards and 24 land, that kind of thing. And the reason why I was kind of thinking of this is, because it's hard to turn a collection of cards into a deck, when you don't really have, I guess, the level of knowledge or experience of how to make a constructed deck. And I was thinking about it because, I'm making decks so I can actually play games at my local game store. But also I was thinking about this because my wife has expressed sort of interest, maybe a bit too strong a word, but she sees that I like the game, and I want to share it with her because Magic means a lot to me. So she tried it a bit last year and kind of liked it. And then we sort of just stopped playing for a while, because I don't know, I can't remember. We just kind of we used to do like fairly regular evenings, and then we just kind of stopped doing it. I think, I don't know, life got in the way, I suppose. But she sort of expressed an interest in like giving it a go again, and I was like, well, great, I've got to make some decks. I've got to make more decks, and that got me thinking of like, how do I make decks? And this is just like my process, how I make, say, like, a standard 60 card constructed deck. I'm not saying this is the method everyone should use, but I just thought I'd use this opportunity to kind of like talk through my process, how I make a deck, and I don't know, just see if if people agree with this or have different ways of how they make decks. So yeah, I just thought this would be like a fun subject for a quick video this Friday morning. So and also, this is something that I think, if I was teaching a new player to make a deck, this is how I would teach them to make a deck. And like, I'm not saying it's the absolute be all end all, but this is the process I go through. So I think we've got three important questions when you make a deck, or at least when I make a deck. I ask, how do I want to win? And that is a loaded question with potentially lots of answers, because that could be, I want to win with combat damage, I want to win with burn, I want to mill them out, I want to win with poison, all this kind of thing. Or you could even subdivide that. I want to win by using, I don't know, playing dragon tribal, or that's your kind of theme. So how do you want to win? You need to know what your win condition actually is. And I would also say have a backup win condition. So have a primary and a secondary win condition. And the secondary win condition can be exactly the same as the primary condition. Like maybe I'm going to go through an example of a deck I built just the other day just to explain this. But like maybe I want to win combat damage, and like I've got like this really super big creature. I know, something like, I know, Alpha Tyrannax or something like that, like a big stompy green creature. But then what's my backup in case that dies or I don't draw it? Like, oh, well, I've got this other big green creature, or, I've got a bunch of blue flyers or something. So that's definitely, I think, the most important question is, how do I want to win? And then the second question I always ask is, what can help me win? So this is kind of like the support cards. So this is like kind of card draw, like ramping up lands, all this kind of stuff, like combat tricks, that kind of thing. So like kind of support cards, because it's not enough having a win condition, you need ways to like find or support that win condition, I think. And then the third question is, how do I stop my opponent winning? Which is, I know it seems like such an obvious thing, but these new players I'm seeing at the game shop, they don't consider this. Like, they focus on so much like going, well, I've got a bunch of like big creatures, just like, but also I have a bunch of big creatures. What are you going to do to stop me winning? Like, just having a bunch of big creatures is not enough. You need ways. So this is essentially like your removal spells, or it could be other things. It could be like counter spells. It could be discard. It could be like prison effects, could be like pacifism effects, anything like that, that throws a wrench in like your opponent's plan. So these are like the big three questions I ask when putting a deck together. And so like win, cons, support, and disruption. So my formula, my very basic formula, is to do like basically 12 cards of each. And obviously like these can overlap in some way. Like a win con might also be a disruption. You might have a big creature that also kills opponents' creatures. You could have a support card that's also like a win con. Like I would say, like a lord effect, like say, an elf, a creature that gives all your elves +1/+1, like that's your win con because it's an elf itself. Maybe it gets all its synergy, but it's also supporting your other elves and giving them +1/+1. And then there's obviously one, there's where all three overlap in something that's win con and support and disruption. But that's usually going to be, I guess, like a planeswalker or a mythic rare or something like that. But it can be done. So these are not cut and dried categories. They do definitely, there is a lot of blend between them, I would say. But I would say, as long as you're hitting sort of like an average of like maybe 12 per category. I say, and it doesn't have to be exactly 12. You can obviously, it could be, you go, I don't know, 16, 10, 10 or something. Like, it doesn't have to be exact. But as long as you're considering these, I think these three card types within the deck, so there's some sort of balance. That's just my thoughts. And doesn't have to be 36. It could be 37. It could be 38, depending obviously what your mana curve is like. That's a whole other thing. But yeah, typically when I make a deck, I do 24 lands, I do 36 spells, and that's again, because that's my process. That's what works for me. So the other thing I always bake into a deck, I do those three things. How do I win? What's going to help me win? And how do I stop my opponent winning? The other category, this is my the Platinum Angel is just here to represent a fact that I like to bake into a deck. Is like, what is my Platinum Angel solution? So the hypothetical, and it doesn't have to be Platinum Angel, but like this, it's the most simplest one because it stops me winning. This is the ultimate disruption card. So the hypothetical scenario is, say that your opponent plays Platinum Angel, like say they tap out and they play Platinum Angel, you can't win. The challenge is, if you can get Platinum Angel off the board for a turn, you win. Like you can, your win condition will then pop off next turn, but you have to get Platinum Angel off the board for a turn. And this simplest scenario, imagine like Platinum, it has no protection. Imagine it hasn't, got anything like protection or hexproof, anything like that. Opponent has tapped out and they disrupt Platinum Angel. What are you going to do to get Platinum Angel off the board for a turn? I just think that's kind of something every deck. I'd say it doesn't have to be Platinum Angel, but it has to be like a big threat that you would have to get off the board for a turn to win. So every color can do this. Every color has a way of getting something off the board for a turn. Black and red can destroy stuff. Blue can bounce it. White can exile it. Usually, green has a bunch of effects. You could have like lure effects that make it have to block something you control. Green's also got like fight effects, like bite down or anything like that. But as long as you've got a way of getting that hypothetical Platinum Angel off the board for a turn, I think that needs to be considered when, at least what I do when I make a deck, and just like, right, what is my Platinum Angel solution? Because this is the ultimate disruption. If I can't get this off the board, I cannot win. So that is kind of like the unofficial fourth question I ask myself when putting a deck together. What is my Platinum Angel solution? So I'm going to just quickly, I guess, show an example of this kind of thinking in a deck I threw together the other week. So it's a deck all based around Primal Crux, which is like one of my favorite cards from Shadowmoor. It's just a big green stompy creature. So it's mono green stompy. So I've got my win cons. So Primal Crux is my primary win condition. So I've got 4 of these. 6 green mana, and it has trample, and its power and time is equal to the number of green mana symbols amongst mana symbols of mana costed permanents I control. So by itself with nothing else, it's 6/6 trample, and then a bunch of other stuff gives it gets bigger depending how many green mana symbols I've got out. So that is my primary win condition because it is a big stompy creature. And then my backup win condition is Oversoul of Dusk, which is 5 hybrid white green. It's mono green deck, so I can cast it for 5 green, and it has pro blue, pro black, and pro red. So it's a good backup condition because it has protection from like 3/5 of the game essentially. And it's a good backup win condition because it's evasive, it has protection from a lot of stuff. It's still fairly big on its own. You could also argue it's a support card like this, where it blurs in a little bit because it supports Primal Crux by having 5 green mana symbols. So that's like my backup win condition, I suppose. Troll Aesthetic is just kind of in here as well because it's potentially, again, another like win condition. It's just kind of a fairly serviceable creature. It's hard for an opponent to deal with, so you could say it's kind of like a disruption card as well because it prevents them from using removal spells on it, I suppose. That's kind of like, if I load up Troll Aesthetic with say equipment or +1/+1 counters or whatever, then that's kind of disruption because you can't deal with it because it's got hexproof and it's also got regeneration, so that denies destruction effects. So you could say it's kind of disruption, I suppose. Like it gets really blurry, like the categories, but like I hope you see where you're coming from. And then Vigor, I would say, I mean, it is a win condition because it's a 6/6 trample. I would say it also supports. It's also a support card because it's got 3 green mana symbols, which helps Primal Crux. It prevents combat damage and gives things +1/+1 counters. And I would say it's a disruption effect because it prevents damage, and which can throw a real if someone's trying to use burn spells on creatures, doesn't work anymore. Or they swing with a bunch of creatures in combat. I block them. I'm not taking damage back, so that's kind of a disruption effect, I suppose. So Vigor is kind of, I suppose, in the middle of that Venn diagram. So then I would say these are the support cards. So I've gone, say a little higher on these. Got 18 of these, but like Llanowar Elves and Rampant Growth are like just get me more mana quicker, which helps support the win condition, which is Primal Crux, and getting out, getting the bigger creatures out faster. Evolution Charm is like the perfect support card because it can get a land or give a creature flying or get a creature back from a graveyard. So, those effects are all really, really good. Like I guess with the support card, it's not going to win the game on its own, but it helps the win conditions do their job better. That's my definition of it. Harmonize lets me draw cards over being a myth. Also lets me draw extra cards and also supports Primal Crux by having more mana symbols. And it can you could also say it's a win condition because it can be a big creature, so it can serve as a win condition if needs be. And Loxodon Warhammer is a perfect support card because it gives +3/+0, gives trample and lifelink. So yeah, again, it's not going to win the game on its own, but you put it on one of the things flagged as a win condition, and yeah, then it's gonna do its magic. And then disruption effects. So not as many of these, I would say. Just but you got to have some. This is where I say it doesn't have to be exact, these kind of ratios, but like I do have some disruption in here. So the Cloud Thresher, I would also say it's a support card and a win condition because it's got 4 green mana symbols, which helps Primal Crux. It's a big 7/7 creature itself, but I would say it's it's primarily disruption because it has 7/7 with flash, so it's essentially a combat trick. It throws a wrench in the opponent's plan if they attack and I flash in a Cloud Thresher. And also it kills small enemy creatures and it does damage to players. So, I mean, yeah, I would say that's like a perfect like disruption card, and the fact it can be evoked as well. If it's taking away opponents' resources, I would say it's a disruption. And then Beast Within is like the perfect green sort of like disruption card because it kills anything, and it gives the opponents just a beast, but whatever you can deal with a beast. And this is also my Platinum Angel solution. If they play Platinum Angel, like right, I have to draw a card from my deck. If if I draw Beast Within next turn, then I win because I can kill the Platinum Angel. That's my solution there. So yeah, that's kind of how I would put a deck together. Oh, and also the final thing, it has to be fun. The deck has to be fun. So you can go through all those ratios. You can do your win conditions and your support cards and your disruption and have your Platinum Angel solution. But I say at the end of the day, it has to be fun. It has to be fun to play. Like if you are not having fun playing a deck, I think you should not play that deck. I would argue as well, if it's not fun for other people to play against, I would say maybe don't play it. I put together an elf deck the the other month, and I played that, and I thought I'll be fine. Like Elvish Promenade makes a bunch of tokens and stuff, and got all the like Immaculate Magistrate that puts counters on elves, that kind of thing. And it was such a chore to play, like to keep pumping out tokens and then keeping track of counters on tokens. And I could just see like people's eyes glazing over, like I couldn't lose, but it was like it was such a chore to try and win because I don't know, it wasn't fun. And like I've had combo decks before where I thought like in theory this was like a fun deck to play, but again you start popping off and you just see like opponents like kind of glaze over and just like, oh, okay, here goes the combo, he's having a go, he's popping off. And I don't know, that kind of affects my enjoyment of it as well because like I don't know, like when I play I want everyone to have fun, not just me. Or I say, it goes for you as well. Like if you're playing a deck and maybe it's effective, but like I don't know, you just have no excitement about playing it. Like for example, I could play. I can't think off the top of my head. I know. Let's say like Blue White Skies. Like I could play a Blue White Skies deck, but I probably wouldn't enjoy it that much because like I would find it quite dull, I guess, because it is just playing a bunch of evasive creatures and soft control options, and I guess I just wouldn't enjoy that much. I think I'm definitely lean. I used to think I was a Johnny, but I think actually I'm much more of a Timmy. I guess let's put it that way. Because I really like this Primal Crux decks. I played it last week, and man, it was really great fun. But yeah, that's what I'd say. It has to be fun. But so that was my method of how I put a deck together. And like I suppose like for some people watching this, they're like, well, yeah, duh, that's obvious. But I don't know. Has this? I don't know. Was this useful in some way? Especially if I guess if you're a newer player watching this, was that kind of useful in I don't know how a deck would be put together? I don't know. Is that is this kind of philosophy of like the win con support disruption thing? I'm not saying like I've invented a brand new way of making decks, but like that's just I say it's just my process and the Platinum Angel solution. So I mean, like, if that gives you something to think about, then great. If you have a different method of how you make decks, please put a comment below. I'd love to hear how people put their decks together. But yeah, I just thought this would be a fun little video to have on Friday morning. Fun little extra video for this morning. I'll be at my game shop tonight. I might try and throw another deck together today when I have some time. Yeah, so I do that. I also use this opportunity. If you've stuck around this long, you're a saint because this is some very rambly stuff today. But let's just talk about how what the progress is on the videos. So at the moment, I am just finishing up recording the M11 precons and having a great time with that. I really wanted to try and get season 3 fully recorded before season 2 ended, but I don't think that's going to be possible, just because I've still got all the Scars and Mirrodin block decks to do, so I don't think I'm going to be able to do that by the time Shadowmoor and Eventide wraps up, but that's okay. The important thing is I've got the bulk of it recorded, so then I've got like a really nice long break before I have to start on season 4, which will be M12 up to Theros. And yeah, I did a poll a few weeks ago about saying like, oh, during that gap between season 2 and season 3, would people be interested in like video game streams? I want to be really transparent about that. Like, I am probably still going to do that. If you're not interested in it, that's absolutely fine. I just kind of want to get some more like content on the channel, I guess. Yeah, I'm not saying it's going to turn into like a video game channel at all, not at all. I just want to be upfront and say like, look, those videos, I will put those videos on the channel. If you don't engage with it, that's absolutely fine. I don't expect you to. I know, a lot of people are obviously on here because it's a channel about Magic the Gathering ultimately. But yeah, I just want to be upfront and transparent and say that, really, I suppose. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling, let you get on with your day, which I hope is amazing. And yeah, keep watching my videos, and really like people commenting on them and engaging them. Yep, gives me a lot of motivation. Still really happy and excited to be doing these videos. Yeah, I just love it. But anyway, I'm going to say goodbye, so have a great day.